Consistent with our results, CSIRO has also concluded that there is room for improvement among many farms, to the extent that exploitable yield gaps relate to the non-adoption or incomplete adoption of many technologies and management practices. An exploitable yield gap is the difference between a farm's potential yield and what it actually achieves. Of course, this raises some questions. Which technologies and management practices that the leaders have adopted are also suitable for other farmers? And what factors can assist other farmers to become more innovative? That is, to source, evaluate and adopt new technologies and management practices more rapidly. Well, to answer this latter question, ABARES recently completed another project for the GRDC to better understand the determinants of innovation and productivity among grain growers. In particular, we wanted to better understand the characteristics of highly innovative farmers, and more broadly, the extent to which productivity is influenced by their innovativeness, that is, the extent and degree to which they adopt new technologies and management practices. To answer these questions, we collected data on farm innovation behaviour according to the types of innovations farmers had adopted over a 2-year period and the extent to which they had adopted them. From these data, we determined how innovative each farmer was, whether they were low, moderate or high innovators. In turn, these metrics were matched with their farm physical, financial and social data, which we collect annually through the Farm Survey program. What we found was that a variety of farm characteristics positively affected innovativeness. Among other factors, these included tertiary education, labour availability, land use intensity, farm size, off-farm income and use of contract services. We also found a strong link between innovativeness and productivity. Now, I'd like to focus on the results for tertiary education and farm size, because they are among the more influential characteristics that have some obvious policy linkages, which I'd like to leave you with. The data suggested that farmers with university qualifications were 7% more likely to be high innovators compared with those that had a Year 12 education only. And a marginal 1% increase in farm size increased the probability of being a high innovator by 4%, all other things being equal. These two results alone intersect with several policy areas of interest to industry and government: tertiary education, best practice regulation, and structural adjustment, which includes drought policy. First, to tertiary education. Given that farmers are likely to have realised such opportunities before going farming full-time, we are seemingly left to consider whether extension, and possibly further education, can play stronger roles in maintaining knowledge and skills on farms. There's been growing interest in exploring these approaches. But education policy also comes into play with some of the other factors associated with productivity growth, particularly farmers' use of contract services. Some of these services include advice from expert farm consultants. Farmers are increasingly relying on them because, in many ways, farming is becoming more complex. Figures from the Australian Council of Deans of Agriculture suggest that there is considerable excess demand for agricultural science graduates. With multiple options to increase human capital in agriculture, additional thought needs to be given to what the respective roles of tertiary education, vocational education and extension programs should be, and whether more flexible learning opportunities can be developed which suit farmers and also their employees. The second area relates to regulatory burdens that might be crowding out the time and resources that farmers can devote to innovative activities. On this front, the Productivity Commission has found that governments impose a heavy burden on farm and other rural businesses. Of course, some regulation is appropriate and necessary to meet a wide range of community objectives. But questions can be raised as to whether any of this is excessive, ineffective, duplicative, inequitable or inefficient. Some cross-jurisdictional comparisons might be insightful. Finally, the results from ABARES study also point to some potential productivity benefits from enabling structural adjustment, insofar as larger farms are likely to show higher innovativeness and productivity. Government support that has been capitalised into farm values can impede structural adjustment. Here, the incentive for less efficient farms to exit the land is reduced, and the incentive for more efficient farms to buy them out and possibly exploit scale economies is also reduced. In closing, we all know that innovation is crucial to productivity growth, but there is two sides to this. On the one hand, the R&D system, which creates new innovations. The other presenters in this session have some fascinating presentations in this regard. On the other hand, farmers' decisions to try something different, to innovate by adopting a new technology or management practice, which after all is what ultimately drives productivity growth. Can we be doing better? The evidence suggests we probably can be. Importantly, it's not clear that we've necessarily exhausted all policy avenues that can play a role in enhancing on-farm productivity. Thanks very much.